Islands.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You're now in the Essential Zone, where we seek to be informative, inspirational, enlightening, and dynamic. But more importantly, we seek to be fair and balanced. There comes a time when the game tolerates no spectators, only players. There comes a time when we must recognize that our individual aspirations shape our collective destiny. There comes a time when getting in the game, despite the risks, despite the challenges, regardless of the cost, is simply the right thing to do. There comes a time when we must find our hearts, find our soul, and pursue our purpose for the greater good of all, for country, for humanity. There comes a time when we must manifest our true greatness. Yes, there comes a time, and that time is now. So let's get down to the essentials. The essentials. Serious radio for serious people committed to advancing the national conversation. And good evening and welcome to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You're listening to Hubert Edwards. I'm your host, and we are on the program, The Essentials, The Reset. And so this evening, we're going to have ourselves, as usual, a wonderful conversation, depending on how you see it. We're looking forward to hearing from you. We're looking forward to your calls. We're looking forward to those who will call and challenge us. We're looking forward to those who will call and support the position. We're looking forward to those who will just call and have their own points. But the important thing is we're looking forward to your participation. This is going to be almost an open line. I have nothing specific that I want to bring to you in terms of what we normally do on this show. We normally we talk a lot about economic issue, about the country, where the world is going. We talk a lot about government and performance and other topical issues, which sometimes are a little bit on the heavier side. But this evening, we're just going to take ourselves a nice little walk through the park, if you will. Because guess what? It's the 6th month of the year. And for those of us who kind of get into the planning and, looking about how life is and, asking ourselves, what did I do for the first quarter? What did I do for the second quarter? Well, this is we are about to get into the second half of the year, so we are in the 6th month, and we are winding that down. We are going through, right now, we are having lots of rain and flooding, and, there's, more water than we need at this point in time. It's kind of reminding us how vulnerable we are in the midst of a hurricane season. But also, we are going through a global crisis. We're coming out of a global pandemic, a pandemic, global. And that would have had its, varied impact on different individuals. We would have been impacted in some instances, whether it's from a employment point of view, somebody was lost. We had a death as a result of COVID, reduced income, challenges with dealing with medical issues, whatsoever it is. But life goes on, and we have to plan for life. We have to plan to be better. We have to plan to always move ourselves in a position which is going to make us better than yesterday. At least that's the idea. That's kind of how I think about it, and I think it's something that would be useful for you to think about. This week, Wednesday, I was on Guardian AM, And I had my colleague, Polo Prosper, who has been on the show a number of times, a friend of mine, brother in many ways. And we spoke about success and, the idea of success and what does success means to different person and why success is important. And I want to kind of carry that over a bit into this discussion, plus anything you want to discuss. I'll break and discuss just about anything that you want to discuss this evening. But I wanted to touch on this issue of success and achievement and being better and doing good and getting to a place where, life can be more comfortable. And why is this so? Because the truth be told is that as a country, as a community, we're faced with some significant challenges. Oftentimes we do not want to admit that things are the way they are. I'm not saying that we are going to all sink to the bottom of the sea. I'm saying that in some instances, we are going to have challenges. And the question is, how do we deal with these challenges from an individual perspective? So overall, the country is going to be good. Overall, many other persons, a lot of persons who have lots of resources, they're going to be good. From an individual perspective, how are you going to be good? How am I going to live in such a way that I am okay? And that comes down to making some decisions. That comes down to the whole idea of how willing are you to take responsibility for your own life? How willing are you to step out and kind of, buck the trend which you have been experiencing for the longest while in your own life experience? How are you going to step out and step up to the responsibility of making you better? I know we live in a country where, this idea of 6 degrees of separation is a joke, right? It's like 1 degree. And so everybody's connected to everyone. And, there is a observed culture, to be honest. There is an observed culture where, some persons are highly dependent, and this is the way they choose to live. They're highly dependent on the favors of others. They're highly dependent on being connected to the source of authority or the source of power or the source of wealth. And that's just how it is. I'm not saying that this is absolutely unique to the Bahamas. By no means is it. But we observe many persons like that. But there comes a point when things get difficult, things get challenging, and we recognize and we realize that the status quo, the normal, the thing that used to be cannot hold anymore. And you have to get to the place where you now have to make a decision if you didn't do that before. You have to make a decision to stand on your own 2 feet. So the question is, how are we going to do that? And this is a message for you and for me. This is as much for me as for anybody else. Because as you look across the landscape of your own life, of your own existence, if we're honest, we'll often realize that, there have been missed opportunities. There are big patches of desert plains, which, there's just absolutely nothing productive, or even if there is some productive things taking place there, it is not as productive as we have the capacity to be. The idea is that, deep down and objectively, we often have the ability to be way more than we are. We have the potential to become more and to do more. And in that becoming, it's the becoming more part which really is the result. The part that we kind of shirk is the doing more. We are afraid of responsibility. That's one of the things my colleague said on radio on Wednesday. The fear of responsibility. the fear of being the one in front, the fear of being the person in charge, the fear of being the entrepreneur, the fear of being the one who step away from the guys on the blocks, the fear of being the one in the family who finally step out and start to do some things differently, because we are always highly sometimes mindful of what others may say, of how they may react. And in order to not have that uncomfortable existence, in order to not have that uncomfortable interaction, sometimes we just rather to stay the way we are. In my book here, Think, Act, Grow, on page 147, I have a quote. It's a little bit poetic, so to speak. But it says, "Go to sleep, nestle in the clutches of your dreams, aspirations, and desires. Awake and be inspired, motivated, and primed to make your dreams, aspirations, and desires real." So basically, it is saying that yes, you must dream. Yes, you must have aspiration. Yes, you must have desires. And you must spend some time reflecting on that. You go to sleep, like if you were to go to bed tonight, you're going to spend at least a couple of hours. Some may spend 2, 4, 6 if you like me. I'm sleeping until morning light. So spend some time with your dreams, your aspirations, and your desire. You have to spend some time in quiet contemplation. Spend some time when you're not moving around, when you're not doing anything, when you are in fact like in a state of sleep, resting. But there are active things taking place. Nobody else can see it. But of course, you're asleep and you're dreaming away and you're making plans and you're looking at what you want to do in life. But importantly, come morning, right? And this is metaphorical. Come morning, you have to awake and be in a state where you are now inspired. So having gone through the process of thinking, well, I think I want to be the best chicken wing entrepreneur in the Bahamas, for argument's sake. I think I want to be the best contractor in the Bahamas. I think I want to be the best water sport vendor in the Bahamas. Whatsoever that dream is, the best banker, the best lawyer, the best teacher, or just to be a teacher. Then you have to come to life as a human being. You have to wake up. You have to step out of the realm of the inactive dreaming and move into a state where you cause yourself to be inspired. You have to become motivated, and then you have to be primed to make these things real. And priming right there is an important element thereof. I don't know if you're familiar with the process of getting a water pump to work. So in order for a water pump to work, even though there is a well filled with water, the plumber or the person who knows what they're doing, they take a small amount of water and they throw it directly into some place in the pump. I'm just pretending that I know what I'm talking about. I just see it being done generally, and I understand the principle. And that pouring of that small portion of water is referred to as priming it. I don't know exactly what it does, but it gets it ready in the case of the pump, but it gets it ready generally for the big job, for sucking up lots of water, for moving greater portion of liquid through it. And that is what we need to do. We need to do the things, the small things now, right here, today, which are going to put us in the best position to start moving greater things for tomorrow. And if we use the example of the pump and priming the pump, it would become evident that sometimes not doing the small things will preclude us from doing larger things. Not priming the pump. If you do not prime the pump, it will not generate the capacity, the capability to actually move the water as you wish. Now, it can do that. It has the potential to do that. It's built to do that. It have all of the parts. But that small process of getting just a small amount of the same thing that you desire it to deliver into it allows it to do that much more. And so too, we have to be conscious and aware of the need to really start to prime ourselves for the future. So how are you doing that? How are you priming yourself for tomorrow? How are you priming yourself on the basis of all of the things which are happening out there in the world? The cost of living is going up. Cost of education. Unemployment is up. We have challenges, paying the bills here and there. We have to be making the dream house in our mind smaller month by month, year by year. But how are we moving ourselves forward to get to the place where we can realize our dreams and aspirations? And it's very important because I'm from a place where I believe I should be dependent on me to move my circumstance. Of course, you have to have relationships, you have to interact with other persons, but ultimately, you should not be 100% dependent on anybody. So how do we make this happen? As we get to June and we look to move into the second half of the year with significant progress and momentum, how do we do that? We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to The Essentials.
How you doing, Mr. Edwards?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Boy, that's a very interesting topic you got there this morning. This evening, you prompt me to call in.
Yeah, man, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. Let's talk about it.
You know, the thing about it is, Mr. Edwards, your question to the nation and question to everyone who's listening to you, how are you priming your pump? And how are you doing things to prepare yourself for the future?
Uh-huh.
You know, the thing about it is this pandemic actually changed the whole landscape of the world when it comes to business, technology, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Because most people, to survive, had to make their business online and digital, it actually created a system whereas people didn't even know they could have worked from home, but they started to. And I think that's a complete shift. Now, the thing about it is that there are two things that happen in one's life. There are situations where people kind of help you on your journey, but at the same time, you have to know when these folks' time has come because they become toxic. What happens is that because they are not moving with you, they're moving against you. And so they would want to keep you inside this stigma and keep on beholden to them. And they tend to give you toxic information. They're not the person they used to be when you were to another level. Mm-hmm. And that holds a lot of people down because they beholden to them because they've been helping them in a side situation back then in a period of time, but they become beholden to them and keep them around so long. It's like people come in and out their life like busboys and waiters inside a restaurant, and instead you have to know when their time has come to move on.
Yeah. So, having gone through the last 2 years, right? And, however, I don't know how the pandemic treated you. I hope it didn't do you too bad, like it did some of us. But how have your personal life changed? What type of a shift was necessary, if you had to make any, in order for you to reorient yourself to the type of future that you are looking to live?
From time to time, it is said that an individual have 1 or 2 brilliant ideas every year. And because of their busy life, you tend not to flush out this idea. The pandemic for me has changed me because I wasn't working. It allowed me to sit down and flush out all the ideas I have in the past, and I have a new vision and a new look on life because I flushed out all them visions and had an opportunity to use all my brain power and effort because I wasn't working to flush it out. And all of the theory and a lot of the practicals that I had, about at least 4 or 5 brilliant ideas back in the past, I've already flushed it out and on my way to completing them.
Okay, so you did a little bit of a dreaming and you found yourself highly motivated to put that into action, and so you have started to do that. So what would you say to an individual out there who listen to you and say, okay, maybe I have 1 or I have 2 or I have even more ideas, but I just can't seem to transfer them from my thinking. It's not that I am too busy. It's not that I'm losing the thought. It's just that I just cannot translate that from, the place of thinking to the real world, to get it to a place where I can actually start to act on it and activate the result. How would you kind of guide an individual through a process, or do you have a process which you operate by?
Well, Mr. Edwards, listening to you for the past half an hour, I think you flushed that out. Why I say you think you flushed that out, and I think you spent a little time on the answer to that question. That's why it probably went over a lot of people's head. You have to be the authority figure of anything you do. You have to be the best. Dr. Miles Monroe, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, always used to say, be the authority for whatever whatever you're about to do, and be someone whereas you're so recognized in that field that everybody comes to you when they have a problem in that field. You have to do that. You have to set yourself apart from the rest when it comes to that field. It is said that mastery comes in place when you dedicate 10,000 hours to a subject area. You have to put in your time. You have to learn to be a master of it. And anybody can do it because affirmation becomes a situation where you pull that dream out of your subconscious mind that is in another dimension and pull it into being, into the physical world. You have to train your brain to see what your eyes cannot.
You're talking some heavy stuff. So, okay, so let's jump inside there and
Hello?
dive down. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Can you hear us? I think we may have lost them for some reason. You still there?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So you talking? You spoke just now about the subconscious, and I want to go back to the example which I gave earlier. And I'm not a plumber by any means, so if I mess it up, don't kill me too much. But let's go back to the idea of priming the pump. The things that you do, the things that you study, the things that you reflect upon, the things that you think about is effectively priming your subconscious mind.
Yes, sir.
And once those seep down then in your subconscious mind, it gives you the ability to manifest more, to find more, to dig deeper, and to create more than you put in there in the first instance. So isn't it absolutely important, just as you require some amount of water to prime the pump, every single individual should spend some amount of time priming the subconscious in the direction in which they desire a particular outcome?
That is very true, Mr. Edwards, and that's what I'm talking about. When I talked about mastery comes in place when you spend some time, at least 10,000 hours in a subject matter. It also is affirmation. It's a very powerful tool that most people do not use. Tony Robbins, I was listening to Tony Robbins a couple of days ago, and he was saying that write down your goal, put it to your bedside, and recite your goal every morning and every night. Allow your subconscious mind to act upon that goal, and every day is a little piece by piece that when you do it, your subconscious mind will get stronger and stronger through affirmation and bring that out of the spirit world into the physical world. Because I reference the Bible. Jehovah, God, and his begotten Son said, let us make man in our own image and likeness. Mm-hmm. Two of them were spirits, so they couldn't have been talking about this shell, the physical mind. They have to be talking about the spiritual mind, which the subconscious mind dwelled in. And that is the creative side of God that he gave his children. And we are the only being that he created that he called his children. Mm-hmm. And we are the only creators. God, a dog can only be a dog. A cat can only be a cat. Humans have the ability to if it's not the situation you want to be in, you have the ability to create one and create the ideal situation. So, but you have to use the subconscious mind to do it.
So effectively, we are co-creators of our own world.
Yes, you have to do it because life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yep.
So if you want to give life to your dream, you have to speak it, a spoken word.
Mm-hmm. And I think, as you went to the Bible, we also can go to the thought which says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now, oftentimes I have...
Whatever is perceived can be achieved.
Yeah, well, not quite, but some things are physically impossible. Like you can perceive flight like a bird, but you will never fly like a bird. But
there are equipment that the Wright brothers wanted to fly like a bird, but they didn't have the ability to. But they invented machinery, right?
Exactly. So it's not whatever is perceived. Sometimes you have to make the adjustment and kind of achieve it in a slightly different way. But I get the message, and the message remains the same. But going back to this idea of, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, right? Oftentimes we talk about it, we know it, whether we have read it or we hear it because it has been said so often. But actually, many persons miss it because they actually believe that this heart, which the Bible speaks about, is that organ which pumps blood through the body, while in fact, it is a reference to the mind, the subconscious mind, the mind in totality. In some instances, it's referred to the heart of heart. Deep down in your mind, in your subconscious, you have the ability to start to change the way you think, change the way you see the world, change the way you approach success, change the way you don't approach success, change any single aspect of your life. Well, you can't blow breath in yourself, so that's something that you can do. There are some things which are impossibilities. But beyond that, as the caller indicated, you have the power to, kind of use your creative mind to change your circumstances. Yes, and that's what we are saying today as we get into the 6th month of the year, and we get into the latter part of this year, going down into December. If things are not going your way, if things are not as you perceive them to be, if things are not working out based on the resolutions that you set, which I discourage people from doing, rather you should spend some time putting together plans rather than making resolutions, because they're just designed to be broken. But if the plans you had in the beginning of the year didn't come true in the first quarter, and now we're going into the end of the second quarter, how will you reset that for success so that you can be more dependent on you for your own future, for a better future for yourself? What you say about that, caller?
Yes, you're right, sir. And I'll take a quote from Les Brown. For the most part, he says that you will fail your way into success. You cannot be afraid to fail.
True.
Because you wouldn't learn nothing.
Right.
Thomas Edison, how much time? Almost 10,000 hours, 10,000 time he used to try to create the light bulb.
Yeah, I ain't sure about.
He failed his way into success.
I don't sure about that. I understand that Thomas Edison may have stolen that from his helper, but that's an argument for a different day.
This is to the streams obtained, and his helper was a black man.
Yes,
we know that's how Mr. Edwards, if you read.
Yeah.
But I'm just using that as a springboard to create my point.
Yeah, and you're right.
Flash it out.
And you're right. It's I think it's Winston Churchill who says success is moving from failure to failure with enthusiasm.
Exactly.
And so we have to be ready to fail. And in many ways, a lot of us have failed over this period, not because we did anything wrong, but just because of the circumstances that was imposed upon us. The question is, how do we move from the point where we currently are with enthusiasm so that we can realize success down the road?
And we get kind of disorientated and get kind of mistrusting of our mind and our dreams from Mr. Edwards. But we have to iron sharpen iron.
Yep.
And you have to be around like minds so that when you get weak, they will prop you up and say a kind word to you and say, man, let's go on our journey and continue our journey. You have to surround yourself with like minds and have to get one or two mentors who did it and who did what you was trying to accomplish so that they can teach you how to do it.
Yep. That is part of the priming. So you prime yourself through mentorship, you prime yourself through studying, you prime yourself through getting additional education, you prime yourself by finding out what is it that you need to do, and to use the word that you used earlier, you start to work in a direction with the objective of achieving mastery at the end of the day, at which point in time you have the ability to deliver at a very high level.
Yeah, you have to do that. And Jesus is a perfect example to us. Jesus didn't start his ministry until he was around 30 years old, And that was around the time that they said you have to be with a rabbi a certain amount of time for you to become a rabbi. And rabbi means master,
Yes.
So it is a perfect example on how you should live and how you should achieve this mastery. Yeah. He dedicated his life from age 12 when they found him inside the temple to at age 30 and didn't start his ministry till then and just did it for 3 years, and he created and he established the Bible and all these stuff. That is the greatest book that ever lived. And he actually wasn't an earthly king, but at the same time, he surpassed all the kings that ever lived when it comes to mastery.
Yep. Mastery.
And that is that is our example.
Yep. And you make some powerful point. Thank you so much, caller, for joining and providing us with some valuable insight. I certainly hope that those great ideas which you came up with during COVID, you will be able to activate them, and in a couple of years you'll be able to look back and say, I'm glad I took the time to sit down and flesh these out, because look at me now.
And when we are a small country, Mr. Edwards, and when I did one or two of them, I will tap you on the shoulder and tell you who I am.
Okay. I look forward to meeting you.
Okay.
All right. Take care, sir. And so I think it's a good point to take a break. We're up just after the 7 o'clock hour. So let's take a break here. You listen to The Essentials, The Reset. Quite a lively conversation with that caller. Looking forward to a couple of more. So we ask you to join us on the other side. 323-6232, 325-4316, and 325-4259. Our text line is 422-4796. We're just having a conversation about how do we prepare ourselves for the next half of this year. How do we get ready to meet our goals, dreams, and aspirations? Don't move. Come right back. Where we seek to be informative, inspirational, enlightening, and dynamic.
Cleveland Clinic is recognized as a leader in healthcare. Our team of experts relentlessly pursues the best for our patients. From groundbreaking cancer research to state-of-the-art heart surgery, life-saving innovations happen here every day. When it's time to travel for your health, it's time to travel to Cleveland Clinic. Your destination for care, for every care in the world. To learn more, visit clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
The new Guardian Radio app is here. Listen live to all our Guardian Radio shows and live video stream select programs in our studio. Get information about Guardian Radio shows and our hosts. Send messages, including text, email, and even call. All from our amazing new Guardian Radio app. Download it free today in your App Store for your Apple device or Play Store for your Android device. The all-new and improved Guardian Radio app.
For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have Baloo's. Pork, fish, and chicken served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Baloo's, Nassau East South. Call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Baloo's, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Baloo's jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
You know it's so essential, so serious. Time for these essentials.
And welcome back to the Essentials, the reset. We're just having ourselves a nice little canter down the park, strolling down, trying to get an understanding of exactly how we are going to reorient ourselves for the future. Now, many of us, like I said, we good. We have it all together. Everything is in the right place. All of the money is where the money is supposed to be. All of the house and the land is where the land's supposed to be. All of the children are in school and so on and so forth. Things are good. But there are others of us who, all of those things which I mentioned may represent a challenge, or some aspect of those may represent a challenge. On an ongoing basis, many of us are faced with great impediments in just living from one day to the next, and maybe not literally one day to the next, but from month to month, seeing ourselves or seeing a clear path 6 months down the road, 1 year down the road. In instances, while we're living in a country which has significant affluence, while we're living in a country where there are persons around us who are doing extremely well, and you see it every day because everything is so close. There's often times when some of us get to that place, that threshold. Unfortunately, many of us cross it. But we get to that threshold where we start to lose the potential to hold hope for the future. And it happens too often. Sometimes we don't see it because we don't pay attention. We don't see that new person on the street who is begging, who never used to be there. That individual who doesn't look like a beggar. That individual who seems very uncomfortable. I mean, you have different type of people. You know, you see some people on the roadside and you figure that one shouldn't be here. They're just kind of maybe, quote unquote, lazy. I try not to label person. And if they ask you and you can give it, which is my approach, give it and, let that be that. But oftentimes we see persons who don't want to be there. They're embarrassed to be there. If you're working in a financial institution, for example, if you're working in a bank and you work in the area of credit, I had some experience in this regard. You know, very, very often you know that there are individuals who are going to turn up and the stories are gut-wrenching. They're taking out every single piece of the essence of you when you hear single mothers, when you hear a couple, wife and husband, who have tried every single thing that they can. And you too, as an organization or the organization you represent, have gone over and beyond, and you are at a place where there's absolutely nothing that you can do. Heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. So there are persons who are there. There are persons who, as a result of the COVID crisis, the pandemic, they're now at the risk of losing their home. No fault of theirs, but they just didn't have any work. There was no work. There was no money. And for some of us, we'll be able to recover. It may take a little bit of a struggle, but for some persons, they've already gone over the cliff. There is no return. They're at a point of no return as far as keeping a house, as far as keeping their life circumstances as it was. And so those are the individuals who we want to speak into their consciousness, into helping them to understand that regardless of where they are, regardless of what they're going through, it is possible to make this change, but you have to prime the pump. You have to start doing some things which are going to get you on the other side of the challenges that you have now. You have to make sometimes some hard decisions. Oftentimes our financial circumstances, our relationships, our social arrangements, they're pulling us down because they're at a place where they are totally lost. And we go down with them because we refuse to let go. We refuse to make the decision, to make the changes, to say, I can do this again. I can start over. I may not get back to where I was, but I'm willing to do that. How often we do not display that level of resilience, that level of determination and the ability to persevere. We become soft in our successes, however humble they may be. We came up on the hard side. We had some good fortunes. We did some good work, and things turned south. And we forget about how we got where we were. But we have to remain mentally strong. We have to be ready to face the circumstances of our lives on a daily basis, minute to minute. Whatsoever the circumstances dictate, that's who we need to become in order to overcome it. So I'll share with you another quote from my book, which says, "Let no situation or circumstance overpower you, deprive you of belief in yourself, and of your ability to triumph." Very, very important. Because the circumstances are the circumstances, They happen. They have happened. You can't change them. You're faced with them. What you must not allow them to do is to overpower you so that you lose hope. You lose belief in self. You lose belief in others. You lose belief in humanity. You cannot allow bad treatment, if you will. You cannot allow challenges with your finances. You cannot allow loss of assets or adverse change in circumstances to deprive you of belief in yourself. And importantly, you should not lose the capacity to have belief in your ability to be successful, to come back, to persevere, to bounce back, however you want to put it. You should not lose that ability. So some of the questions which I ask in this book, but we can ask generally, and we should ask ourselves generally. We should, as human beings, I believe, we should interrogate ourselves on an ongoing basis, and we should do that honestly. Nothing to be ashamed about. You asking yourself in your mind honest question and you answering them. There's absolutely nobody who knows what you ask and what you answer. But you have to be very honest. You have to interrogate yourself at a level which is going to cause you to realize and accept where you are, what you're missing, and what needs to be done, and then go do it. So, are you mentally strong? Are you mentally strong? Are you one of those persons where once something happened, when things are going smoothly, when things are, on a comfortable level, you're fine. But as soon as there's a little bit of a upheaval, as soon as there is a small impediment, a small problem, you just lose your mind. If you are that, then one of the first things that you need to work on is your mental toughness. You have to become mentally tough. Believe me, at least, well, you don't have to believe me, but my experience has shown to me that when you try to transact life with some level of mental toughness, the potency of the problems that you face diminishes. So you walk into it not underestimating, not diminishing, not disrespecting the potency of it in its full sense. But because you come to it with a certain mindset, because you approach it from a certain perspective, immediately, some of the challenges start to moderate because you immediately start to see a future circumstance beyond what currently exists. And that is important. That's about hope. And oftentimes, we as individuals who interact with other persons who may be challenged, we need to become merchants of hope. If you can sell somebody the idea that they can remain hopeful, if you can convince them that all is not lost and whatsoever sliver of possibility that they see they can hold on to, you do great justice to them. You create great value for them. How much do you believe in yourself? Seriously. We say this all the time. I know I believe in myself. I have great belief in myself. And, somebody call you up and say, guess what? Your account just went into overdrive. And you say, oh, my life is over. Ma'am, the mortgage you applied for, you can't get it because we don't think you have enough money to make the monthly payments. Oh, my life is over. You have not been accepted to the university that you desire. You have not been given the job that you apply for, and you say, oh, my life is over. Maybe not as extreme, but something to that effect. And I'm not discounting the fact that there is going to be discomfort and disappointment, and in the interim, there are going to be some suffering or at least struggle. But you have to be at a place where you believe in yourself that the thing that you set out to do, which didn't happen, you can make it happen. You have to be able to believe in yourself that that dream, no matter how remote it seems, no matter how far-fetched it looks, no matter how much persons tell you that, boy or girl or in the Bahamas, you're wasting your time. That is not for you. People like you don't do that. People like you don't go to those places. People like you don't get them type of job. You have to believe in yourself. And I always have an approach that I take to certain things. I always say, if at least one person did it before, why can't I? Why can't I do it too? What is stopping me? Now, persons are differently abled. persons have different set of resources. And so the extent to which they may do it will differ from what I can do. But I'm going to achieve that to the best extent possible for me, to the extent that I am most capable of. And sometimes that's where the problem lies, because we do it, we do not succeed, but we also do not appreciate the reason for the lack of success. And the main reason often is that we do not at any point in time even approach near our potential. We just, kind of like, let's take a little stroll at this, rather than, we going after this like Shawnee Miller going after the 400 meter. We going to sprint this like Usain Bolt does. We going to go hard as possible to our full maximum potential. Because oftentimes the things that we're doing doesn't have the urgency of a race, right? You don't need to get from point A to point B in 10 seconds or less. You don't need to get from start to finish in 43 or 51 or 49 seconds or less in the case of a 400 meter, male or female, 43 second plus, 44 second or 49 for the female. It doesn't have that same level of urgency. Because, of course, we are going to live long. We're going to live until we are 50 and 60 and 70. So we have time. And so we don't go at stuff with the level of urgency which is going to catapult us to that level of success. And these are some of the things which we just need to work on. These are elements which help us to prime our pump. Another question to be raised is, are you on your path to becoming a person of significance, or are you there already? Now, if you're there, you can become more significant. You can do more things. But like the caller said earlier, and when he invoked Dr. Miles Monroe, he spoke about when you decide to do a thing, you also must decide, well, I want to be the authority in this thing. I want to be the individual persons come to whenever they have a challenge, whenever they have a problem, because they see in me value, something that I can solve. Because that's the way you create value for yourself. And that's how you create significance. Significance isn't created by what you think you have within you. Of course, you have to put it there. Significance is created when other persons outside of you realize what it is that you do have to contribute to them and the world and their circumstance. That's how you create significance. Dr. Miles himself always used the example of the mango tree and said that persons don't go to the mango tree because it looked nice and have broad branches and high limbs and, nice tree. They don't. They go to the mango tree because it have mango in it. They go there for the fruits. Consider the mango tree that you have in your yard, in your community, that you pass every single day in, day out, and you pay no attention to it until it blooms. And you say, wow, that one going to bear a whole lot, there's a lot of bloom. So that's one stage. And then you don't pay no more attention to it because now a couple of mangoes coming out and you say, wow, look at them. But you still haven't visited the mango tree. You just look at it because guess what? A bloom is not something that you have any desire of consuming. And in this part of the world, we don't do the green mango thing. But the moment the season arrives when those mangoes start to ripe, you and that mango tree have a new level of intimate relationship. You're connected to it because it has value. The turn, the coming to fruition of the fruit, of its fruits, have created greater significance for the tree. All this while is the same tree doing what tree does, but now that it is in fruit, now that it has value to offer, and not just any value, because remember, it had mangoes up to yesterday, but none of them was ripe. And you don't value unripe mangoes. The moment something in you, that something that you have to offer matches that which someone wants and desire and demand, you acquire significance. And the more you can do that consistently, the more consistent you are with that, because obviously, we are going to have up and down. There are going to be dry seasons. There are going to be time when you are the most important person in the world and then persons just forget about you. Things like that can happen. So if you can put in the work, if you can do things, if you can execute in ways which get you to that level of consistency, like a fruit tree, if you can bear often, if you can bear a lot, if you can provide what is desired by other persons, then your significance will be there and it will even improve. So, are you an individual of significance? What is it? What one thing are you known for? And this could be at any level. But there need to be a thing that you are known for. And you have to work hard at it. You have to spend time doing it. And in the process, you need to spend time doing it well. And if you do that, and you take the same approach to making some money or doing some other things, you'll be fine. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's obviously not going to be easy. I could relate my own personal story where, I've spent lots of time doing certain things and, it doesn't dramatically change my life. It doesn't deliver monies to you directly, but there are benefits to be gleaned. And the question is this thing also something which brings you fulfillment? Because that is fundamental. Do the things which bring you fulfillment, because sometimes there's going to be no money, no food, no friendship, no goodwill, no nothing attached to it other than the personal fulfillment that you get from doing it. And that is important. Because as a human being, having things are important, yes, but just having things without fulfillment is not going to be a good thing. How do you cope under pressure? This is a good time to ask yourself this question, because we are living in a moment. I read something recently which says we are living in a moment of continuous uncertainty. There are continuous and convergent uncertainties. So we dealt with the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, we're dealing with inflation, and then after inflation, we hear about monkeypox, and then after monkeypox, we hear about war. Well, before monkeypox, we heard about the war and lots of things which are happening. And all of these things have an impact on us to a greater or lesser extent. So, how in this moment do you cope under pressure? When you listen to the news, do you get nervous about the future? Do you get lost in your own thinking that, I am not going to be able to reach my goals and reach my dreams because now I'm entertaining some negative view of what the future may look like? Make no bones about it, this moment, 2022, from 2020 into 2022 right now, this is pressuring. You may not see it, you may not notice it too much, and that is because you have found ways of coping. Every single individual who have gone through this crisis, I believe, had to make adjustments. Some of us are better at doing that. Some of us had less reason for coping. But in some way, shape, or form, our lives were adjusted. We had to make adjustments and still make an adjustment. And so, how do you cope? How do you deal with reduced finances? How do you deal with challenges of having children who have lost a lot of time at school and they are now challenged to move on with their lives? How do you, as a person who is highly social, now have to be isolating And that is putting a pressure on your life. How do you, as an individual who need to interact with persons in order to make your living, in order to make your livelihood, that has been constrained, how do you move ahead? How do you get ahead with that? Well, it comes down to your ability to cope under pressure, your ability to deal with these pressures. Do you leverage your inner strength against anguish or for opportunities? And I want to kind of dive into that a little bit, because it's a simple question, but a little bit complex, because it says, do you leverage your inner strength against anguish or for opportunities? So first of all, before you can leverage your inner strength, you must be strong inside. Yeah? We talk about being ready. The caller earlier talked about the idea of working from a place where you understand that there are things within your subconscious mind which can come to the fore. So if you're not strong inside, if your thinking isn't right and positive in many instances, if you haven't learned how to think through problems in a strategic way which leads you to a decision, if you haven't built the relationships which you, in a time of crisis, you have persons that you can call on and don't feel isolated and lost, if you do not develop the discipline of working through your problems, so the first time something happened, you don't throw your hands up and say, well, I can't do this. For those of you who are in church, you run to the pastor, or you run to the counselor, or you run to your brother, your sister, and a lot of those persons are dealing with their own issues. They don't have time for that or sufficient time to help you. Others, some actually do, but sometimes you have to have the discipline yourself to be able to do that. The bottom line is that if you do not pour in to you in times of anguish, or when the opportunity is facing you, you won't be able to call on it, right? Because you're instinctively digging into your subconscious mind, thinking about how can I make this happen? Who can I call on who will give me some guidance? And you're coming up with zero. Nobody. I have nothing. I've never met this. I don't know what to do. The reason you do not have anything to call is because you didn't put anything there. So in the first instance, you have to strengthen yourself. It's like a weightlifter. Before you start lifting those heavy weights, or at least doing that in competition, he has to train, he has to practice. So in that moment of pressure, when he calls on his body to give him that extra oomph, the body remembers that we've done this before. We may not lift as heavy because it's up by 2 extra ounce, but we have been in the circumstances, and mentally I am prepared to lift this weight. How mentally prepared are you to go through the circumstances that are facing you at this moment? And very importantly, how well prepared are you to not just simply deal with the negatives or the impediments or the challenges, but to be out there actively chasing opportunities? And this is important. This is very, very important. Because yes, the challenges are there, you can overcome them, but chances are those challenges are part and parcel of you recognizing and making good use, making good of opportunities which present themselves to you. And if you do not have that inner strength, if you do not have that discipline, if you do not have the wherewithal to deal with those things, opportunities are going to pass you. Challenges are going to pile up on you. Problems are going to be your constant companion. And you're going to live a life, you're going to be in a state where, your mind is, as they say in the Bahamas, just compuncle up. You really it won't be at a place of where you have a sense of well-being, where you have peace of mind, where you are, despite the big issues faced with you, you're going about life in a way which kind of bewilder other persons. Like, isn't he the one who went through? But look at him going at this point in time. It's a level of mastery where you get there. And, obviously, we all have different levels of calamity and different levels of challenges. And this is where we may need others to help to support us and undergird us. But there has to be some element of individual inner personal strength. Because nobody can carry you all the way, right? At least some part you have to be doing some of that for yourself. Well, sometimes if you are well connected and it's money and persons have a lot of resources, some persons can do that. But for most normal persons like you, like myself, that's not going to happen. And you have to run some of those miles yourself. Sometimes you will get a start at the beginning. Sometimes someone will help you in the middle because they're now convinced that you are committed to it. But the extra mile, that 1 or 2 extra mile, only you alone can go there for yourself. No one is coming with you. Because the extra mile by nature is a place where you go of your own accord. So no matter how far they push you. So if somebody came along and said, well, you're slowing down here, I'm going to push you for 2 miles. That's not the extra mile. The extra mile is when you are no longer being pushed and you, under your own steam, under your own power, with your own resilience and perseverance and relentlessness, decide, I can make another step and I can take 2 more. And then eventually you reach to a place where, oops, guess what? I'm way better than I thought I was. I have the ability to do more. And that's where we are. And that's the type of thinking. So as we go into the next semester, the next 6 months of the year, we must start to kind of formulate our minds around, how are we going to become better? And even if you're doing extremely well, if even in your mind, if you're doing extremely well, if you've been doing that for a while, the good news is you can do more. You can get better. You can always get better up to the point of, obviously, human capacity. And I think that is important. We have a caller on the line. Go ahead.
Blessed. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Blessings 52. How are you doing?
Yeah, right, sure. This is a great show. I like the idea because, I'm sitting here doing some upholstery work, right?
Uh-huh.
And, I have many different trades, right? But this is just one that I learned from my mother and a couple of Jamaican guys she had working for with some Bohemian guys. So all in all, I learned this collectively from about 5 or 6 different people just in the family business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned different methods, different concepts. Everybody do it different. So I have my own methods, some that's more convenient. And then as I think, I get better and I get better. But at first, initially, I was always discouraged because it's a very difficult trade. It involves mathematics, physics, common sense, and very long hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so most people would downplay it because a lot of guys doing the upholstery work, they're not professional upholsterers, you know what I mean? Like I do car seats, I do everything, and I take pride in it. I took pride in it, and I try to be so meticulous, and I like to look at my work, unlike a politician or a police, right? When I finish a job, if the person doesn't like how it look, right,
Mm-hmm.
I have to fix it. And so anything that I can see, any flaws, I would see, I say, and they can see it. And so because Hans do it, it's not perfect. And so maybe I might do something sometimes, and I might say, I do like a review. I say, man, I'll ask my coworker. I say, look, Jeff, how does this look? Or Ralph, how does this look? He's back in Montego Bay. And so I'll call him on the phone sometimes. He's doing it for like 30-something years. So I could always call him, and he could just, whatever I don't know, he can just tell me over the phone, and I'd accomplish that. Mm-hmm. So I'm at a level now that I can appreciate it. But I always think about innovations, like how I could get into making sewing wallets and, just updating my equipment and all that. But I don't like to borrow money. But I notice people like to downplay your trades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to you talk this conversation. Can one be successful without succeeding?
Can one be successful without succeeding? That would require a lot of definition, though. 52.
You know why I say that? Because a person can still be successful monetarily, right?
Uh-huh.
And mightn't succeed at what he really started out to do.
Okay, true.
And so, me personally, that's me, 52, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm very stoic.
Yeah.
And I'm not a vain person like us to believe in vanity and the social snobbery that is exhibited by the human race.
Yeah.
They don't know how simple they are by exhibiting snobbery because of inanimate materialism.
Mm-hmm.
You feel you're better than someone. I've seen it. I ride a bicycle. I live simply. And some people say, I still grow the dreadlocks on my hair now. So they say, by 52, people see you, they wouldn't believe you have all this knowledge in your head because you just look like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a, you know what I'm saying? And most of the times they go out, I'd be working. And I say, get this from my mother. She was doing good before she died. But what I'm saying is normally I just would be humble. But just how I work it, I go out and I do things. And I'm not really interested in who see me or who, some people, we have too much pride about the human flesh. But I'm so down to earth. One time to bury my, told my oldest daughter, I don't have far to go because I done on the ground. So what I'm saying is, think of the psyche of the rich and the super rich when they're flying over in their yacht, sipping tea and discussing what it is to be. And they see all the people on the beaches, et cetera, et cetera. This is what life has brought to the human race. Now, as a guy came on this show, we talk about Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And so with Jesus, or Yeshua, right?
Yeah.
What you have to realize is not everything a man said and did can ever be written and recorded. Mm-hmm. So he said he started this ministry at 33. That's ridiculous, man. You understand what I'm saying? Not because that's what they give me.
He ended it at 33.
Yeah. But he disappeared from 12. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then we saw him when he's 33. So you really believe he did nothing between 12 and 33 because they didn't write it?
Yeah.
You have to stop being naive. No, Mr. Evans. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, but the information is out there for you to go and seek to see his journey to the east, et cetera, et cetera. But, I don't want to get into that. But what I'm saying is, we're all being misled about history and other ideas about life. And social snobbery is this one. Now, it's all good to settle to be successful and ray, and rah. But sometimes, some people just want to survive. Some people just want to survive, all right? So, it's not designed for everybody to be rich. What it was designed for was to farm and live. But because we see other people with all of these amenities and vanities, this would be want. But, I don't follow that. This is the reason why I don't really like to borrow money, vast amounts of money from the bank and try to do things to impress people because I know life. And so life has a spiritual context for me. I was listening to Muda Baruka from I was in grade 8, Mr. Edwards. And I know the simplicity of life. And I've followed up global agendas for 31 or more years. So when last week when you had the conversation and you said these people are not after me and you, I said otherwise. Let me tell you something, Mr. Edwards. The word cooperation is hidden in conspiracy. When you saw the pandemic treaty, nations cooperating. We wasn't there to sit and see what they discussed. So what I'm saying is euphemism is the order of the day. Of course, cooperation could be conspiracy because when you cooperating with someone, that's what it is. If I cooperated with someone and they did something, they said he in the
it
bed,
could,
right?
but it don't have to be.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But in the way how the world is moving, anyone who's well read, like, have you read the book called The First Global Revolution? Have you read the book called The Open Conspiracy? Have you read the book called Mortgaging the Earth? See, there's so many information out there about globalist people who use and influence to push global policies that we don't even understand. You listen to the dialogue between Klaus Schwab and Albert Bourla, Pfizer chief CEO. He said people want their social freedoms and financial freedoms back again, right? Mm-hmm. As if there's the world boss. You have to go at the top and listen, We at the bottom. I mean, I'm at the bottom. So I listen to the people at the top. And so I know what's coming. You will own nothing and be happy.
Why do you say you're at the bottom?
Because I don't mind being at the bottom.
No.
Bottom.
I'm not saying you mind. I'm asking you, how do you define the bottom?
Well, you asked me another difficult question. You see what I'm saying? So, but I guess when I can see all the dregs, but
okay. And I'm going to ask you another question. How do you define the dregs? What are you defining as dregs?
Maybe no dregs.
No. I don't know. I'm asking you.
dregs are particles that settle at the bottom.
Yeah,
And
but
no.
But we're not talking about water. Are we using this metaphorically to refer to people?
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is, I grew up socially diversified. My parents were middle class, and so they had a swimming pool in the back of the yard. After a while, I went to a private school, but I'm in the inner city, and I used to come this way after school, and so I integrated with the inner city youths, and everything just normal, and I'm down to earth. And if I see some people and they need this and they need that, I would give them if I could. And so, as a person in the inner city, I hate seeing the suffering and the social degradation and the neglect.
Yeah.
And the fast.
And how
and
do we...
The deification of the politicians. Some of these politicians, these people talk good about. I've heard certain things and see certain things that they said to people who didn't vote for them. So I'm looking at it as being a realist. In life, see...
Now, 52, before you change your thought, the question I have for you is, how do we address that social degradation of individuals who find themselves in less than ideal circumstances? How do we start to create a paradigm shift where they start to understand that they have the power to make different choices and to make different decisions? And as you put it, the deification of a fellow human being is something which ought not to be. How do you get to that place?
Oh, how would we get to that place is by, of course, social intervention. But I envision a large community center with different demographics and spaces where ghetto youth can come in. We can have a track and field club, a reading classes, basic maths, arithmetic, and some skills like schools bound envision, and just like there's a gentleman came on this week and he was telling Warren something we need to get the youth some from small, and that's what is needed, because when you hear the conversations and when they're saying the little gang slogans and little gun finger to youth them and like they doing and exemplifying, it's serious. So it's a terrible cycle. It's a terrible cycle, and so in order to stop this cycle, you must have the zeal to go and deal with it. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like a disease, and it's hard to really stop. And so the gentleman who said we need to get into schools and preach this is like, I have a daughter, she's in grade 1, and she's in a government school. I lose a lot of income because of the pandemic, and I can't afford it. But she was telling me this boy always bothering her, and she's only in grade 1, and he's saying something with boyfriend and girlfriend. I was like, wow. But this is normal. I explained but just in the playground, I guess. But she's going to school to learn.
Right.
So this is the type of paradigm that you're seeing now. But that's just one aspect of just what you have to put up with in the public school system. So when I look at the environment of the public school system, the way how they have everybody amalgamated together and time to pick up their children, it is anti-COVID. So you saying COVID-19, but why everybody got to pile up under this little roof to pick up their children, and all the primary school children gather together?
Yeah, they don't have any more space.
They always treat poor people like dog, and they're giving us dog food. I mean, I don't eat the dog food, but this is what it is.
Man, 52, you make some broad statement. Look at the reality is that in instances we may not be seeing the most favorable treatment of certain segment of our population, right? But I am more concerned about not those who treat the people badly. If you hold on.
Like to be treated badly.
Let me finish.
Those of us who accept it and don't speak out, because I spoke to the principal. Why is it that everybody has to come to this one gate and wait? You see,
for control purposes.
I don't have my opinion. I deal with what I see, I don't really deal with what I see. I don't really speak my opinion too much. I just go by what I observe,
Mm-hmm.
That's what life is. I go by what I observe. You see, and if I observe subterfuge and lies, like Mr. Strawn asked me the other morning, what is my agenda? He knows what my agenda is, to bring out the truth to the people. There are many people who right now are suffering right now from the effects of the COVID vaccine, but not have the audacity to come on the radio and say it, right? The fact that we and the media, in the Bahamas.
I don't know that is true, though.
But let me tell you what is true.
I don't know that is true.
Let me tell you what is true, then. Let me tell you what is true. What is true is that we don't have an adverse event reporting system. What is true that we don't have a breakthrough death rate data. And what is true, we don't have the death of who all died from COVID-19 vaccination. Being at 20-something thousand people already died in the States. That's not even Europe. They have millions of adverse events. And millions of breakthrough cases, but yet still they have the data. So what I'm saying is,
millions of
we
people
don't
took
have, Mr. Edwards, come on, man.
No, I can't allow you
so why
to.
we don't have these things here? All right, the other day I called Quincy Parker.
Hold on.
Please, give me this 1 second.
No, 52. I'm going to take the second. The issue is, and this is why I always try to get across to callers on radio shows, right? Is that, and this may be the reason Dwight asked you about an agenda. You see, as a caller, as a participant in what is on the national airwaves, right? You have a responsibility to be more sensitive in what you discuss.
Wait, Mr.
No. Listen.
It has nothing to do with being sensitive. It's being sensible.
No. You also, it's not just sensible. It's also sensitive.
Yeah, but I'm being ridiculed, so I have become
who ridiculing you?
Oh, Mr. Edwards, you heard me, people ridiculing me on Guardian Radio. What I'm saying is,
no, man.
Are you trying to break my chain of thought here? I'm saying is, I spoke about anthropogenic carbon versus carboniferous carbon, trying to expose the farce of the carbon tax and the financial scam behind it. Nobody could answer the question. Nobody's willing to answer the question, but yet still on the rebroadcast, they cut what I was saying because they didn't want to open up the public eyes of the fact that how can you tax carbon dioxide when this is another way of taxing life? Because the gas chromatograph chromatography machine, would it be able to tell the difference between the isotopes of carbon that determines whether it's anthropogenic or if it's God-made carbon? Plants give out carbon dioxide in the day, and fossil fuel does so the same. So what I'm saying is, how could you tax carbon? Why would you tax carbon when there's other greenhouse gases more deadlier? So what I'm saying is, some things are so clear to me, and it's pitiful. Like, it's just pathetic, Even with the science, what I'm saying is, knowledge is not common.
Yeah, I understand.
And so, if what is my purpose on earth if I'm going to sit pathetically by like a sheep on a plantation, knowing I know better, and don't try to enlighten people? And everything I'm saying has actually materialized and come to pass.
Yeah, but
life is based on deception, Mr. Edwards. Life is based on deception.
No, life is not based on deception. You have.
How did the devil get so strong? If he didn't deceive the whole world, and the Bible tells me that. See, I could get all the science and go biblical, See, I said, Mama said, I do bookish, And so the fact that I'm bookish, and I'm a college dropout, and some people be in the school, why is it that you didn't hear this question from the intellectuals? How would you tell the difference between anthropogenic carbon and carboniferous carbon? Why you didn't hear it from all the intellectuals, Mr. Edwards?
No, because they choose.
I ask you one question.
They choose not to speak about it, but when you do speak about it, you have an obligation.
Man, some of them didn't know about it.
No, you have an obligation.
Some of them didn't know about it. All right, why is it that they couldn't tell me the difference between the anthropogenic carbon and carboniferous carbon? Why they couldn't tell me the difference?
You the one who bring it up. You have a responsibility.
But how could I bring it up if I used to call this trouble? That means my mind is not funneled. No. I'm able to think independently. That's all it means, Mr. Edwards.
My brother, I have told you this before. All of these accolades that you give to yourself.
What accolades? I should call this dropout.
No, all of these accolades that you give to yourself, allow somebody else to say it to you. Just do you. Just come and explain.
But doing me is being selfish.
No, there is a. For
me to live life without a passion, it's pathetic.
No, but 52, and I said this to you before, and I love to talk to you, and I love to hear a lot of things you say, but there is an undertone to 52, which is one, a little bit boastful, and two, very impatient. It's true.
Boastful.
It's true.
Boastful, but what?
Huh?
Boastful, but what?
About your readiness.
Yeah, so what? Wait, but I still say job at a college. What boastfulness?
No matter one of the main issues of life is about communication. You come on here and you start throwing out these technical terms which nobody understands and nobody knows.
Mr. Edwards, you know what you mean nobody understands. They have Google, they have a smartphone.
Not in the moment. Not in the moment.
Between DuckDuckGo and Google.
Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for your contribution. Blessings. Yeah, and that's kind of. I actually enjoy stuff like that, having this type of a conversation because I think it's important to engage. I love.
If you'd like to make a call,
I love 52. I love his mind, but what I said to him is what I honestly believe that if he is unable to moderate the way he presents some stuff, and the fact that he is often engaged in the national conversation, he does have a responsibility and obligation to be mindful that something said could have an adverse impact on the, rest of the country, could have an adverse impact on individuals who are not at the level of understanding that he is. So he has to present it in such a way which is balanced. You have to be willing to explain certain things, and he has to be mindful that persons look up to him. They listen to him. I've heard persons call in and say, hey, why don't you invite 52 on this show or that show, whether or not a host would want to do that. It's indicative of the fact that there are individuals out there who look to you for what you say. They believe what you say. You have some influence over their thinking. And as a result of that, you have an overt obligation to transact that differently. Love the mind. Love the reading, love the thinking. I know you do a lot of the conspiracy thing, and I can live with that. But understand sometime when someone challenge you, they're asking you from a place of, seriousness. What exactly is it that you're seeking to achieve? I won't put it the other way, but what exactly is it that you're seeking to achieve? And when you answer that question, and set out to achieve that, as long as the objective is cool, you're going to be a more effective individual. You're going to be more potent in your contribution to these national discussions. I'm convinced of that. I think you should be convinced of that too and make that adjustment. And so we are almost close to the end. Should we take a break or too late to take a break? No, yes, it's too late to take a break. We only have a couple of minutes more to go. So why don't we jump back into some of the other things that we were discussing? I was asking you a couple of questions. What is your level of resilience? And because your level of resilience is a major determinant in your success. So just like we heard from our previous caller, the caller before, and we heard from 52, these are individuals who have given thought to the things that they want to say. Clearly 52 spend a lot of time reading and discussing and studying. And so he brings these things to the fore. So it's the same way. You have to spend some time. And you have to be willing to be ready when you're going to be challenged, because no matter how good you are or good you think you are, there's some point in time when life is going to buck you right in the teeth. And you have to be well ready and willing to face up to that too. There are times when your most convincing idea, your most convincing argument is going to just fall totally flat. Either because the people who you're telling it to have absolutely no interest in that, maybe because they don't like what you say or how you say it or whatsoever it is, but you have to be willing to be good with that. And you have to be willing to do so with a level of humility. Very, very important. It is said that the human spirit is more resilient than anything that can be shown, that can be thrown, not shown. More resilient than anything that can be thrown at it. I read that statement somewhere, and I'm not sure who the author is. I'm reading from the book. It is such a powerful and encouraging statement. Imagine having the capacity to be exposed to the most extreme form of pressure and distress, pain and suffering, and still be able to overcome it and remain whole. The human spirit can be very resilient. Properly developed and nurtured, it can become a source of great strength for the individual grappling with challenges of any form. This is the part of us beyond our physical self. This is the unseen portion of our human self that makes us larger than our circumstances and negative situations. This is why we should work to become mentally strong, to develop persistence and resilience, to create a mindset which constantly pushes us forward when faced with adversities. Beaten and battered, still we rise. This is the nature of the human, the essence of humanity. The person without resilience has been divorced from the possibility of ever approaching their true self, their truest self. Because we are resilient, we approach the world with a can-do spirit that everything is possible. And even when our achievements are limited, we mentally revel in the energy of, I can get it done. I can overcome this. This is but a part of the path I must take. I am stronger than any obstacle. We can unleash this tangible power for our benefit. This energy, however, works both ways. Some mental toughness works in times of great opportunities, not just in moments of anguish. The truth is that both scenarios create tension and could call for deep intestinal fortitude. Amanda Ripley puts it well when she states, resilience is a precious skill. People who have it tend to also have the three underlying advantages: a belief that they can influence life events, a tendency to find meaningful purpose in life's turmoil, and conviction that they can learn from both positive and negative experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave it there. But I want to say to you, regardless of what you face today, remember, be resilient and grow and go forward with a belief that you can, no matter what it is, overcome the obstacles faced in your life. All that's left to say is be good, do good, take care of yourself. COVID isn't over. I want you to walk good, one love. And as we always end by saying, do not allow your greatness to become a victim of your unwillingness to change. Have a good night. Ubuntu.